Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Piper Report. So, I'm going to go fishing soon, but before I go catch my fish, I want to discuss the opiate and opioid crisis and how to solve it. Now, the solution to it is quite radical, but it will work if we do it. So, I will go over it. First, we have to go over a little bit of chemistry about opiates and opioids and what the difference is. So, heroin and morphine, all that stuff, comes from a plant, a poppy called Papaver somniferum. Now, heroin is actually derived from morphine using a little alteration of chemistry. That is why when you ingest heroin, it breaks down into morphine in your body. So they use morphine then, and by doing more chemistry to it, they create other substances like oxycodone, hydrocodone, fentanyl, dilaudid, oxymorphone. I mean, there's a bunch of them. So that's what they use to do that. So opiates are derived specifically from the plant, and opioids are actually created in a lab from the plant. So there's a difference there. But for the sake of this video, I'm only going to say opiates, but it expands and broadens over everything, okay? So now we have to understand what people OD on the most. And the majority of people that are using OD on fentanyl or heroin. Now, I will go over the difference and why it's important. The thing with heroin is that you are buying an unknown quality of a known quantity. So, for instance, if you're an addict and you go to a dealer, well, he sells you some heroin. His may be stronger or weaker than another person who sells it to you. You don't know the purity of it. You don't know what's cut with. It could be cut with lactose powder, could be cut with coke, could be cut with fentanyl. So heroin is about, I believe, 7 times stronger than morphine. Now there's a new drug, not new, but a new drug to the scene appears called fentanyl. And fentanyl is about 100 times stronger than morphine. So what they notice now with fentanyl is that they can actually cut their heroin with fentanyl. So they can save more of their heroin. That's why they can expand their sales in. They can sell more of it. Now, usually prescription meds, and fentanyl's a prescription med, are actually more expensive than heroin itself, which is a reason why people OD on heroin more, which I will go over soon. But however, with fentanyl and other chemicals now, you can do what's called make analogs of them, which is essentially you're deriving pretty much the same chemical, but you are either adding a carbon here or moving a carbon atom here. You alter the organic chemistry where it derives from. You are creating a new chemical. That's why a lot of these fentanyl producers are actually laboratories now, like kids can do stuff like that. So anyways, they cut their heroin with it. So fentanyl, remember, is 99 to 100 times stronger than morphine. So if they're injecting heroin, which is already strong, with fentanyl in it, they could easily overdose. And that's actually another reason, kind of off topic, but similar, why a lot of people OD on heroin after they're clean for a while. Because, for instance, let's say you're an addict and you clean up for 6 months and then you go back to use. Well, what you usually buy from your dealer, your tolerance now is lower, so you can OD from it. Or your tolerance could be the same. But now since they have fentanyl and stuff added into it, then you can actually still OD from it. So that one's kind of key as well. But anyways, the reason why it's important and how legalizing it will actually help is because, like I said earlier, prescription pills are more expensive than heroin, but they both come from the plant Papaver somniferum. That means that the high or the effects are very similar. So when people need a fix, they will do whatever they can to get high. They will do whatever they can to get that fix. It doesn't matter what. I mean, people even steal for it. However, why would they go and spend a shit ton of money on prescription Oxycontin or Dilaudid or oxymorphone when they can go get heroin, which is stronger and twice as cheap? The answer is they wouldn't. They would go for the heroin because it's cheaper, it gets them higher, it's stronger stuff. It doesn't really matter what's cut with because they are getting higher and it's cheaper for them. They can afford it. That's why a lot of prostitutes who are on drugs become prostitutes, for they can just get their fixes. So it's very powerful stuff. It's really highly addicting. Now, if you would decriminalize it, if you would decriminalize all opiates and opioids, what that would do then, that would first off increase the supply because pharmacies would make a shit ton of it. That means prices would go down. Prices would drop down below heroin. So when people need their fix, instead of going for the cheaper route of heroin, they can go to the new cheaper route of the Oxycontin, for example. And what's good about this, I don't know about good is the right word, but what is good about this is that they are getting a known quality of a known quantity. They know what's in their Oxycontin pill. They know how much to take. They know it's either 40 milligrams, 80 milligrams, whatever. They know it. So that one is also key here. It basically gets rid of heroin because why use heroin when you can now get cheaper stuff, pills that you can't OD from? And that's a big one too. So by decriminalizing it here, you're essentially lowering prices on all the other opiates, and you're actually kind of getting rid of the heroin because you don't know what heroin is cut with. You don't know how strong heroin is. The problem now with this, or what people perceive as the problem, is will this work? Will decriminalizing work, or will it increase drug addicts? The amount of drug addicts there are. Well, Spain decriminalized all their drugs. And in Spain, we actually see that addictions go down, overdoses go down, and the overall drug crime goes down. So if we were to look at Spain as an example, will it work? It seems to be working over there. I mean, because if you're gonna use, if you want to get high, it doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. You're going to get high. You will, especially if you are already an addict. You're not going to stop no matter what. So by creating more funds and more programs to help with treatment and try to block them from getting to them, you're only really compounding the problem. You're not actually solving it. You're just pushing them away for now, but they're still going to try to get it no matter what. Now, I understand that drug addiction is bad, and people can still OD even if it's legal, but isn't that their decision to decide what they want to put in their body? Is it really our decision to be able to determine their decision? Do we have a right to do that? That comes down to your whole political philosophy. Now you're libertarian, progressive, what have you, but when it comes down to it, do you want other people telling you what you can and can't do to your body? It's that simple. But either way, this would work. Decriminalizing it would work, and it's not going to happen because it's way too radical, but that would work and that would help. So we'll see what happens in the future. As of right now, with the Republicans and Democrats we have in Congress, there's no way this is going to happen. But the Libertarian Party is growing. And if they didn't have Gary Johnson as their candidate last year, which is freaking retarded, they had someone like Austin Peterson, you would see the Libertarian Party would have grown vastly over the election year. They still grew a lot with Johnson and Weld, but nowhere near they could have. But the point is that they are still on a steady increase of growth. So I can see eventually more libertarians getting into Congress. We already see a lot of libertarians getting into state legislators, so it's reasonable to conclude that we will see that same aspect on a federal scale. But until that happens, the drug problem won't be fixed. The war on drugs doesn't work, especially on marijuana. I mean, marijuana, the majority of people in prison, federally and state, are all from marijuana, either users. They don't deserve to be in there. They don't need to be in there. If you want to give them treatment, you can, but since marijuana isn't addictive, there's really no point to give them treatment. I mean, we know that marijuana is safer than alcohol, and prohibition of alcohol didn't work, and that's why it was legalized. And the same concept can be viewed for pills and stuff like that, other illegal drugs. I think overall, save us a shit ton of money, because we spend billions and billions of dollars a year on the war on drugs, that drug crime doesn't go down at all. Drug crime still goes up. All this money we're spending to try to deflate it, we don't see any kind of deflation. We see a rapid increase. So it's not working. So I think marijuana will be the first to start for national decriminalization. Then we'll see how it goes from there. But yeah, in a nutshell, that is how you solve the opioid crisis and the opioid addiction and the overdoses, by decriminalizing it. Now I think I'm going to go catch some fish. Then I'm done.